Jackie Case.
Hello.
I got that right. How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
Right. I think we're going to jump right in to tell us about the ATM.
Okay. All right. So I'm Jackie Case. I am a fine artist. I'm represented by the Rebecca Hossack Gallery, which is in London, Miami, and New York. I also am a children's book writer, illustrator, and I have a degree in graphic design. But today we're going to talk about, so there's this, I'll call it an exhibition of a performance piece called the ATM Project. And I have had the honour and privilege of performing it 4 years in Melbourne, and I have also done it up in Brisbane and in Sydney and London with the gallery, and also in Singapore. So, do you want me to say what the ATM Project?
Oh, yeah, I think we're going to have to hear that. Yeah.
So you have been and seen the ATM. So basically, the Affordable Art Fair asked me if I wanted to do a workshop or do like live drawing, and I'm not the greatest of having lots of people watching me drawing because I find it really nerve-wracking. And part of my fine art pieces are super fine pencil work that is almost like drawing with a needle. The pencils are so sharp. And when I'm drawing like that, I have to be really calm because my hands will shake and it has to be like very precise. So I find that if I'm drawing with people watching me, I get really nervous. And so the drawings don't turn out very well because I've got like little wobbles. So I had been thinking about how can you draw in a space where people can't see you, like in a box. And then I thought about, well, what is an exchange of an idea was then you can draw someone's concept, and it almost like an ATM where you put something in and then you get something out. So that's how the ATM project was born, where the idea was I sit in a large ATM, which is really called an art transfer matrix, which kind of sounds a little bit.
Oh, that's what ATM stands for. Okay, right. Yeah.
So it's a little bit wanky, but it's this exchange of idea where someone will write down their prompt and then I will sit and draw that live drawing inside. And then so they buy the credit card, they write the prompt, it goes in the ATM, and then I will draw what they ask for, and out will come an envelope with their concept on it, and hopefully they're very happy. And it's been hugely popular, and I'm so honoured that I've done it globally now.
So do people kind of write down a request, or what kind of format is the I guess the credit card, like what do they write on it?
So I would say that each show, so each state or country tends to have like a flavour. If I could, you'd be surprised at how many people will write something where they think they're being really original, but then you may have seen 2 or 3 of that request, that particular show. So I will also say that each of the affordable art fairs go for 4 days. So there's the Thursday, which is sort of like the VIPs. Then there's the Friday, which is sort of different crowds of people come, and Saturday is usually families, and then Sundays is also a lot of families. And but each day also has a flavour. And so I would say that because of the Thursday being a lot of art people, maybe some art critics, gallery owners, collectors, serious collectors, they tend to really like to ask quite challenging prompts, and sometimes they might even try and like outwit you or trick you into trying to draw something that is undrawable. But that's also part of the fun because you can get like a group of people and they're all writing the most crazy things, and you get like a group of cards that all come through, and it's kind of like something that's kind of a little bit strange, something that's even stranger, something, and you can tell. Well, I can't see in or out of the ATM, so I don't know. I'm just guessing. But they kind of feed off each other, and it's sort of the fun of having this kind of like...
You think some of them are like in cahoots?
Well, I think they're kind of outdoing each other. It's like, oh, let's write this. I bet you she can't draw it. And it's like, no, let's write this. And so you get like a group of people, a group of cards that will come through at the same time. So, is
there any request that's undrawable?
Personally, I have not had one where I haven't been able to... I've always been able to draw something. And some of them are more difficult, but not for the reason where the actual prompt is really difficult. I think sometimes if I'm tired and I've been drawing, drawing for hours, I can realise, oh, yeah, I'm actually a bit tired, because some can really and I'll give an example of one.
That's what I was going to ask. I think we all want to know.
So this one was one that I did find a bit tricky. And it was in Singapore, and this person wrote, I like the colour blue, which is difficult because I only use grey with a pop of red. So I'm like, okay, that's good. I'm assuming it's a he. They like blue. And then they wrote underneath, I also like women's bodies. So
that's why you assumed it was a man.
Yes.
Okay.
I assumed, I could be wrong. Yeah, who knows?
It's a safe bet.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay. And that one just really, I was like, what do I draw for that? Like, what do you draw when someone says these kind of very opposite?
What did you draw?
So that one really stumped me for a bit. And I was just like, okay. So I ended up doing, I'll call it, when you're doing live drawings and they're warm-up drawings, because each drawing takes, I don't know, between 5 and 10 minutes. Like that's the kind of the time allowed per sketch. And that one, I did like when you're doing live drawing, you'll have a model, and then they'll do some poses, and you'll just quickly sketch them posing. So I did a sketch of like a female nude body in a 5-minute pose, and that's what I ended up doing. And it was sort of artistically and also in a way where it wasn't too, because you never know. I assume that it was like an older person, but you just don't want to be too graphic with the drawings as well.
Yeah.
So it was just like a tasteful, those beautiful sketches that you see of like a woman sort of turned kind of. So that's what I ended up doing for that drawing.
And the blue?
There was no blue.
There was no blue?
There was no blue. I might have called it. Sometimes I'll put the blue in the title of the drawing, because sometimes I will title them. But I think just sometimes you can't. You have to pick there was no blue in that one.
I mean, you could have just written the word down, I guess.
Yeah, I could have. And sometimes I do, but I don't remember if I did for that one. But that one stumped me.
Hopefully whoever they were satisfied with the...
I assume so, because I didn't hear anything. So you assume that they take it. If they don't like it, then I don't know, they just take it home. Or
Has anyone ever tried to, I don't know, put the picture back in the box or something, so I don't like this or anything that?
Look, I've had the card come back and I'm like, oh, what's going wrong? And they'd written it, oh, I love the drawing, it's so beautiful.
Well, that's nice.
That was very lovely. Sometimes people might, they might just want like a splash of colour, or like the red or something on it. But it's all very rare when I hear anything. And because I'm just in the box sketching, it's part of the performance is that I'm doing my interpretation of a piece of the prompt. So it's not always what they think they're going to get, but I think that's also part of the fun, because for example, I did a drawing. They wanted a turtle eating a strawberry. And it's quite I don't know if you've ever seen it on YouTube, but it's really cute when you see turtles eating strawberries.
Oh, that's a real thing. Turtles,
it's like you can see, yeah.
Turtles actually eat strawberries.
Yeah, it's like
Why does that sound weird?
It's just it's just like the most delicious thing. They just eat it like it's, I don't know, they just love it.
I'm looking this up later. Yeah.
And so I think this person obviously likes watching videos of turtles eating strawberries. And so they said, can I have a turtle eating a strawberry? And I like to play with scale. So I ended up doing like this big strawberry, which was most of the page. And then in the green little leaves at the top was this little turtle eating the so that's the fun where the expectation is, oh, it's going to be something, and then it ends up being something else. But I personally like it when the drawing is sort of like encased within the A5 piece of paper and that it's not sort of going off to the edges. So that's why I like sort of like a strong shape like a strawberry, and it can have a nice graphic sort of component to it so that when you have the little turtle, it's kind of like, a bit of a play with the expectations, which makes it fun. And I've had people come back. I think my record is one person came back and bought 7 drawings.
Wow.
In a day.
Wow.
Because they like to see what's going to be.
Yeah, it's you made almost like you made them addicted.
And I've had I don't know as much as the people that work for me at the booth, because I'm sitting in the box, not seeing people open the envelopes. I'm not so I can only hear from what other people, what my the staff are saying about the work. But they've every now and again someone will try and scream at the ATM, and because I can't hear very well, I can't really tell what's going on. And they'll like scream out thank you or whatever. But the staff are always really lovely in that they love working for the ATM project because they get to see all the different drawings when people open it, and they get to be part of that excitement of what people receive.
So you don't come out at all? Unless maybe to go to the bathroom or something, I guess.
No. It's long days can be sitting in there.
What took 6, 7
No,
hours?
So each fair and each country and each state has different times, but I think the longest is 11 hours on the Friday.
Not leaving at all?
I will leave.
In that.
But so originally I had a smaller ATM where I just sat in literally a chair and a desk that was encased. But the Affordable Art Fair have very kindly built me a beautiful big ATM, and the one in Singapore was so you can lock yourself in, you can stand up, you can stretch if you need to, and it's very spacious compared to what I used to have. Yeah,
I mean, for people like listening, it's like it's big, but it's not big. It's cooped up for hours. It's not big.
Well, that's why I think of it as a performance piece.
Yeah.
So you do have a piece of original artwork that is completely yours, that you've put in the prompt, and it is like commissioning. For some people, it might be the first piece of artwork they've ever commissioned. So it is quite tiring, and I think the most difficult part is not drawing stuff that's, I can draw whatever. It's sort of coming up with the idea of how to interpret that card. But the card also says a lot about the person who's written on it, like the type of handwriting. Some people will write literally an essay and have so much sort of information that they want to put in. And some people will write like one word, and some people don't write anything at all, which I always appreciate because then I can just draw whatever I feel like. So I think it says a lot about, I think people might not realise how much it says about them, when they put that card through, and I have to interpret it as best as I can. And some of them are really funny. Some of them are quite sad. Some of them are I don't know how well they're doing in the real world, but I think that's sort of this bizarre intimacy that you can have with someone when you don't see them, and they can sort of be free to write something that they might not necessarily want to share. And some people open the envelopes in front of, sometimes there's a crowd there, and some people just take the envelope and will open it at home and, whatever. So it is a really, it's a strange, ironic intimacy in this performance. But like I said, it is long hours, lots of prompts coming through, lots of different, trying to do the best drawing in a short period of time. But it's fun. I actually really, really enjoy it, strangely enough.
You mentioned earlier, like collectors and serious collectors and all that sort of stuff. How, because your work is kind of whimsical and quote unquote nice, and some people might not look at it with all due respect. They might not. They might say, well, "It's not like art."
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, how kind of people can be when it comes to things like that. How have they responded to like your work? Not only your work, but the Art ATM.
Well,
the concept.
I think the beauty of art is that it can range from, one extreme to another, and there's room for everyone to have their own space. And I think for me, it took a while to be able to be comfortable going, this is the type of work that I want to produce. I, spent years honing the craft of the actual drawings, and that when people see them on the walls, they can appreciate that that's not something that everyone can do. And the beauty of what I do is that it is about, for me, it's about connection. And when someone sees something, they feel either a sense, oh, I can relate to that, or isn't that beautiful, or I just appreciate the craftsmanship within that piece, and that's okay. It's some collectors just want to have something that they can look on the wall and just feel good, and it's, for me, I want to be a commercial artist, which means providing work for a gallery and providing a type of work that the gallery expects and that I'm happy to produce. So that's the reality of working. If you're working for yourself and you don't have any limitations or whatever, then that's fine. You can do whatever you like. But for me, I really wanted to have a gallery that would look after all of the admin, and I could just be at home creating the pieces of work, and then they can go off to the world and be sold and show, wherever. And so I was happy to, I'm happy to produce that type of work. That's what I feel comfortable doing, and that's what I enjoy doing.
And that's what every artist should do, is create the work that they want to create.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. There's space for everyone. I always think of probably the most extreme would be performance pieces where they like hang themselves with hooks on their skin. Have you seen that? There's like a really famous.
That reminds me of that movie, The Cell. Have you ever seen that?
No.
Yeah. That's a good film.
And that's so like that really extreme. It's like in the 70s they used to hang themselves.
Yeah, the kind of, is this where they pierce themselves with like rings or something?
And they'd hang themselves from the roof.
Yeah.
And that's perfectly, fantastic, but that's not what I'm doing something different, and this is where there's space for everyone to do what they feel, that, and we need artists that will tackle every, this spectrum of ideas. And but I know also for me, I like to do this sort of work, but for me, it's really important to have that connection. And even though I could possibly, make them into prints or, put them on a T-shirt or a coffee cup, I've chosen not to do that, and that it's more important for me to produce the work that I do that is 100% original, and not make copies or prints of things. So that's sort of where my my artistic, creative.
Even like editioned prints and things like that, you wouldn't do?
I've never done it. No, it's just not. Also, part of it is I cannot reproduce the artwork. I've tried, had them professionally scanned and photographed, and there's just loses something within that original. But and also because the work is so fine, part of it is that's done by hand. It's not something that's done big and then shrunk down in a print. So I think that's what people enjoy, that skill set, which has taken me, years and years to develop. And I just think that gets lost as well. And, I'm always trying to improve, always trying to get better, and trying to, always coming up with different ideas and different themes and stuff within the work, and just see it as something that it can keep growing, and I can keep, hopefully improving. But
yeah. And actually, I got to agree with you on like scanning. Like when I print one of my photos in my darkroom, and the scans never, like they never look right. And I've actually decided to stop scanning my stuff and start photographing it instead.
Yeah.
Because I think I'll get a better result through that. But yeah, I kind of get what you mean. Like, yeah, in that something gets lost in the translation there somewhere. And I guess I can understand. You must photograph them for yourself.
So I just scan them at home to put on Instagram and stuff like that. But I know I look at the pictures that are on my social media, and they just don't look anything like what they do in real life. Like, I think there's a massive jump, and I think that's what the work sells so well, better than what I do on Instagram, because people can see it with their own eyes. And I think my work needs to have human eyes on it. But that's also, it's like a good thing and a bad thing in that it's great that I can, have all these shows that all these exhibitions that I've been in where people get to see it with their own eyes. And then I have these collectors that continually come and collect the work over years and years, which is so lovely. But doesn't necessarily translate so well if you're just looking at like a little Instagram square.
Yeah.
And I mean, you've seen the work, how different it looks in real life than it does.
Instagram is not real life. Sometimes things look different. Sometimes they look better. Sometimes they look worse.
Absolutely, some work you can tell looks, and because I've got the graphic design background, when something's big and then it crunches down into a small square, it has so much more detail that isn't necessarily there in the larger piece.
Yeah.
Which is, if you don't know that can happen, then some pieces can be quite almost shocking when you see them in real life, because you're like, oh, I thought it was going to look like something else.
Yeah, again, my own photos, I look at them on Instagram sometimes. I'm like, actually, that looks so much bloody better than the actual print. I feel like a fraud.
No, well, it's not that it's just that it's crunched down, and so it becomes more detailed than what you would see, and it's like a strange phenomenon that can happen, and it works for some people. Like, you look at their I've gone and looked at their work in real life just to see how well it translates, to see whether I'm right or not. And yeah, you can see a difference. But Instagram, its own beast.
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned graphic design. I thought that's a good chance for me to ask you about your history. How did you become an artist?
So I'm one of those little kids that wanted to be an artist, like from very young. I don't know, 7 Up. I don't know if you've seen the 7 Up series.
Yeah, I've heard it. Is it 7 Up and then there's another one?
14,
21.
Yeah.
Did they go to 28 and 35?
Oh, no, they've gone beyond that.
Okay.
They're in their 50s now, or 60s, early 60s. I should check. But I remember like very young wanting to be an artist, and I had like that kind of cliche. I was going to, wear a stripy top and go to Paris and,
wear a beret.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because you just don't know when you're a little kid what that means. But then as I got older, I realized that it's actually really tough to make a living out of being an artist. So I found out in year 10 that there's this thing called graphic design, which seems like a no-brainer now because graphics and, just like all computers and, the way we all do social, design things. But I ended up, deciding I wanted to do graphics. So I also realised it's really tough just to get into graphic design. And I found out that the school, the uni that I wanted to go to, they'd take, I don't know if you know much about the ABC letters. I don't know if they do it anymore.
The what?
So when you apply for a arts course, they used to do, I'm sure it's all on email now, but you used to get like an A letter or a B letter or a C letter. And A meant that you had a space, they had a place for you. C meant sorry, but good luck, but you're not, they don't have a spot for you. And B letters meant that you had to, you're on the waiting list. So what happened is that the year above me at uni, they normally take 2 classes of around 20, and they took 3 classes and gave them all A letters, and everyone said yes. So normally a lot of people drop off or go somewhere else.
Okay, yeah.
So the year that I went, I was going to all the interviews. We were told they're only taking 1 class. So I was like, that's going to be I'm not getting in. Like I don't even have, it's not even, 40, it's 20. It was actually 17 because they had some international students. So I was just like, I'm not going to get into graphics. This is really hard. Anyway, I was very fortunate I did get in, and it was a very intimate class because it was only 20 of us. Yeah. No, 17 plus the 2. So it was like 19, I think, altogether. Anyway, so then I had graphics, and I always wanted to have like my finger in the pie of having a creative. And then I took a 2-year gap year where I went and travelled through Europe, which is probably spent all my money going to all the art galleries, like the Louvre.
Where'd you go? Yeah.
Yeah, Louvre. And I went to like the Musée d'Orsay, and I can't even remember all the names of the, and lots of them in London and in Switzerland and just wherever I could afford, or I saw something that I really wanted to go to. So that was kind of like, and what I did really fall in love with, which sounds strange, but I don't know if you've been to the Louvre.
No.
So downstairs they've got like all the marble sculptures, and they're so like they're so milky. I don't know how you describe it, and I think that's what attracts me to drawing, kind of like just sort of on white, like just this really I don't know, you really get that I don't know, the shading, or and we don't really have sculptures like that in Australia. And they're so perfect. Like the craftsmanship in those, like the hands and the feet are all so perfect. And if someone said to me I was going to go and like really be drawn to these like kind of Roman sculptures, I would have gone, no, that's not me at all. But they're really amazing. And I can see parts of my work with what I saw there, surprisingly, because I don't explore colour. It's all just white and grey, and like the shading of the sculptures was just amazing, I thought.
What is it about colour that you kind of makes you? I would have thought with the graphic design background that colour would play a part.
Yeah, I just think, I don't know. I think part of when I had my first exhibition, and I did, which was at the Picture Box on the corner of Smith and Johnson Street, and it was in a small, in the old shop.
That's in Collingwood, everyone, in Melbourne.
You could, you used to be able to hire the space underneath the actual frame, the framing shop, and that first show I did a mix of painting and drawing, and I just wanted to see how people responded to the work. And I thought, well, if all the paintings sell, then maybe I'm meant to do paintings. If all the drawings sell, then maybe I should. And then I had some hybrid kind of mix. And well, fortunately or fortunately, they all kind of sold as a mix, and it wasn't like, oh, this is it. Do this particular style, you're definitely going to be a painter, or you're definitely going to do drawing or whatever. And there's two pieces in that show which were sold, and I look at them and think they were my favourite things that I drew, and it made me realise that it was my choice. I didn't need the public to tell me definitely do this or definitely. And as I've got older, I realised that it's always fun to try, and you experiment by doing different things. If the world's not telling you exactly to do something in particular, then do the one you want. And you probably should do that anyway and not worry about what the world says. But as I said, I wanted to be a commercial artist, so having people respond to a certain type of work, then that does play a part within my own practice.
Are you kind of glad it panned out the way it did? Because it could have gone the way of, like, you know, a few people bought a certain kind of art, and then you set off down that path when you really didn't want to.
Well, exactly. That's exactly right. And I think it's a question that we all, as artists, have to ask ourselves. What do you want to produce? Work that makes you happy? Do you want to produce work that you know will make, will sell well? And these are all quite complicated questions to ask yourself. Like, do you want to just do something because you want to earn money, or do you want to do something that you're proud of? And I think in the end, the work that you're proudest of ends up being the work that gets sold anyway, because it's good work, because it's what you're making.
You put more effort into it, I guess, and more, I guess, love and dedication. Because it's what you want to, it's how you want to spend your time. Yeah.
And I think it shows in the pieces that I create, where you're like, oh yeah, that was that was a strong piece, and that had, rather than, I hope that I never get to that point where I'm just sitting there just churning out stuff because I have to. It's always thoughtful, it's trying to improve or, grow on a theme or try something completely new. And there is, I'll call it like a wave, where you can explore something and you can kind of try different sort of variations of things, and then that will taper off and you'll start something else. And so if you look at my work over the whole time I've been making drawing, you can see, oh yeah, she was really into that for a while, and then like trees or birds, and then more into pandas or whatever I'm drawing. So,
and is that how you find something, like you might do something for a while and maybe it doesn't taper off? Does that happen as well? And then you kind of just keep going with it?
yeah, like I think there's sort of some drawings that I will revisit. So one of them is I think you might have seen a couple at the like the pandas that hold the balloons, and so the pandas are always saying something different, but they are, you know, there is sort of like a stylistic sort of quality to them where you could put them almost as a series of all the pandas saying something, or doing something, but they're kind of like a theme, I guess. And those ones are always a little bit more, they kind of say what they want in the balloon, but not necessarily. Sometimes they wear T-shirts that say things on it. So you get this kind of like, you know, you think the panda's saying one thing, but the balloon's really saying something else. So they're sort of hard to explain if you haven't seen them, but it's, I could see myself exploring that theme forever, because it's like, well, how do I really feel, as opposed to what I'm presenting to the world, which is what the T-shirts sort of say, I'm fine, but the balloons have got like swear words in them, like they're not fine, you know, that kind of thing.
Well, it's funny. It's funny you said swear words, actually, because I wanted to talk about kids' books.
Mm-hmm.
And so how does the fine artwork you're making with swear words now, how does that tie in with the books? And are we talking, I actually didn't look too deeply into this, but how many books like are we talking about that you've kind of published?
So I've got one main book that I've illustrated other work, but this one I wrote as well. And so being asked by a gallery, an amazing gallery, was a lot easier than getting a book published. It's so difficult, and it was a lot more challenging than I thought, probably naively. But there's this thing where you can pitch an idea for a book, and you can it's pretty brutal in that you go up to a publisher or an agent and you show them a piece of work that you have, and you've got 15 minutes or sometimes less where you have to show them, this is what I've been working on, and they'll go, oh, that's great, you know, please send it. We would really love to print this, and, you know, we're going to publish it, and congratulations, which is really rare. But most of the time you get told, oh, thank you for coming. And this doesn't fit with what we want right now. So you have to be really thick-skinned about it. There's lots of rejection. And so I've done a couple of pitches just to have this experience. And I did one pitch and it didn't go very well. I'm always like professional, and I just accept the fact that this doesn't work. And you can tell really quickly, like it just takes a couple of seconds.
Or do their like eyes glaze over?
Yeah, well, because I've done them on Zoom as well. So they say things like pivot, tell another story, or try something else. And so I'm madly pivoting. But I think it was an agent. It was an agent and a publisher. It was two people. And one of them said to me, why don't you draw like you do for the gallery? Because I sort of said a little bit about who I am. And it's like I did have like these colourful children's book. And I tried to do what I thought they wanted, but it's not who I really am. So I kind of, when you put the computer down and you're just like sitting there going, oh my God, that was terrible.
But you really like sticking to your guns, don't you?
And then so I just ended up writing a story about how difficult it is when something doesn't go right. And I placed it in a space that was like where the character is trying to do something in the arts, because that's, where I'm in the arts. and how it's just awful when things don't go the way you want. So I ended up writing this story, and I did it literally for myself. It was a reminder of how difficult it can be and how awful and brutal it is when you get I get really embarrassed when I've put an idea forward and someone doesn't like it. I'm like, oh my God, this is really embarrassing. I just want to put my head in the sand and run away. But I also get really motivated. I'm like, okay, how can I make this better? What can I do that this doesn't happen again? So I ended up writing this story, and rather than having it all colourful and the way that I thought, I did like I do for the gallery, and I did my style. But like I said before, it's very difficult to reproduce it. So I had to spend more time than I realised adjusting so that it looks like my work, but it will print. So that was a bit more technical than I anticipated. Anyway, I did this story and I illustrated it completely and sent it off to a publisher up in Queensland, and they said yes. So I got traditionally published with them. So that's been a lovely, lovely experience. And yes.
You can give your publisher a plug if you want. If you say who it is.
They're with Boolarong Press, which is a small family-owned publisher up in Queensland. So lovely. So lovely.
I think they deserve, they're supporting an artist.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. And it's I'm very pleased and very proud to say that last year it was on the bestseller list for readings.
Oh, nice.
So people seem to respond well to the story.
So how do you cope with the digitisation of that work?
Well, that was tricky, and it did take a lot longer. So I had to actually adjust the way that I did the drawings to they're in the vein of my work for the gallery, and it is a good companion, but it's quite different. But it is just using the greys and with a little bit of the red. She wears a little red hat. It was kind of leaning in on my strengths, but also having to sort of adapt to a different medium.
Any inclination to make a fine art book?
Well, the other thing I did years and years before, which so one of the hardest things as an artist is to talk about yourself. It's like the worst.
That's why I like doing this.
And it's like nice when someone asks you a question, but if you have to like write an artist statement or biography, or it's just like the worst. And with the collectors, so Rebecca, with the gallery, she travels the world with and visits lots of art fairs as part of her, the way that she shows off her artists. So I've been very lucky that my work's ended up in art fairs in the UK and in Paris and in across America, like in New York, like Art on Paper in New York, and San Francisco and Los Angeles, and I need to write Seattle. They also go up to Toronto, which is what I'm working on at the moment, show up in Toronto, and plus like Hong Kong and in Singapore. And so it's lots of different shows throughout the year. And this is what being commercial artist is, having, being told that there's a show and, they need X number of pieces, and then being able to have that work ready for them, which some people is a nightmare. But for me, I need a deadline, so it works well.
Deadlines are good. They really get your ass into gear, don't they?
Exactly. So now I've lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
So we were talking about the book?
A fine art book.
Oh, so part of it is it's really difficult to have to talk about yourself. And so we ended up making a little book, and I ended up crowdfunding it and just having, I think it's like 1,000 copies that we ended up printing, and that book could then go with the pieces that were going to all the art fairs. And the art book, I don't know, like I didn't want to just write something about myself. So I kind of wrote it like, what did I wish I had known when I was like finishing uni, finishing school, high school, about like finding your own creative voice. And as a graphic designer, I kind of, what I did is I kind of took the creative process as an artist, like I deconstructed it so that you can ask yourself certain questions and then be able to create your own voice. And I'll explain it because it sounds a bit... So what I would do is that I would ask, and so I wrote this in this book, so I would ask you, what do you have in your hand when you're creating something? So for someone like yourself, I would say you had a camera, but you also have a microphone, and you have like all the different things that you have within your creative practice, which are different to what I would have. So I'd have a pencil, or you could have knitting needles if you're really into knitting, or you could have a paintbrush, or whatever it is, a microphone, because you might be a singer or into podcasts, or it might be a keyboard. So I ask you, what do you have in your hand? And I get people to write on a cog. And then I'll ask them, where does that thing go? So that sounds a bit weird, but for example, the microphone might go on a desk for a podcast, or it might go on a stage because you're a singer, or the pencil might go on a piece of paper, or it might go on a canvas, or it might go on a wall, or you might have a spray can that goes, like, it's just all the different things that it goes on to. And then I will ask things like, what I talk about your values, like what are the things that you're really interested in, and how, and you might be really into like environmental issues, or you might just be really into cats, or you might be into taking photos of laneways. Like where does, what are the things that are interested to you, your subject matter. And then I'll ask you about, where do you see your artwork going? And I think that's sort of a question that artists are a little bit afraid to answer, because they might want it to go in a gallery, but they don't want to say they do, or they might want to just have it in a market, like in a market store. They might want it to go in a museum, and, the likelihood is, quite difficult to get your artwork in a museum, but that might be what they really want. And then I will ask them, I talk a little bit about scale, and it's just like writing all these different lists, and I put them on cogs. And what the cogs do is you line them all up, so your pencil's on a piece of paper and it's of a cat and it's in a gallery and blah, blah, blah. So that's like that's where I would be. But you twist them and you turn all the cogs. So you might be really, you might love knitting, but you also love hairdressing. So maybe rather than wool, you're knitting with hair. And then you might want your work to be in a museum. So maybe you're collecting hair from people from all over the world, and you're doing like your subject matter is immigration. So it's all the things that you're into that only you can answer, and you're just twirling it and twisting it in ways that create something really new that you hadn't thought of before. So
that's cool. Yeah, that's really cool.
So I ended up writing this book because I didn't want to just write about me. I wanted to write about the creative process. And in between, I sort of talk about myself, but also it's a little bit of a spoiler, but I do have drawings that I have in that book. And so, that it was, I don't know, people have that book all over the world with, and it's out of print at the moment because I don't know, feel a bit weird about it.
Oh, have you got any kicking around your house? Because I wouldn't mind one.
I'll bring one if you, but I should have brought one tonight, but I didn't think to. But yeah, it's when we had a little book launch for it at Brunswick Street Bookstore and is it Brunswick in
Brunswick Street?
Yeah.
In Fitzroy?
Yes.
In Fitzroy in Melbourne.
Yeah. A few years ago now, like a long time ago now. But I had to laugh because I got my brother to do little speech and he was so inspired by the book, which is exactly what you want. He ended up creating a larger version of the book and he stuck what are those where you light them and they're like little sparklers. And
like the celebration.
Yeah. He
sparklers.
stuck them coming out of this fake book, and he hung it with bits of string, and he pulled it, and it sparkles. It's the funniest thing. I could not stop laughing, but I just thought this is exactly what the book is about. Just doing something crazy that you wouldn't. I don't know anyone else who's had a book launch where their book's been made with sparklers coming out, and you're pulling. It was in the doorway. Because we were worried that the whole place is going to catch on fire.
It's a bookstore. There's lots and lots of combustible material in there.
Correct. But it was wonderful. It was like such a lovely memory of him doing that. And that's where the creative process is fun. And it's about mixing different. I mean, that's basically all creative people are just twirling their own dials and making something that's unique for them. That is by, putting these different aspects of that creativity. And like I said, everyone has a different cogs, different things that they can. And I think creative people just do it naturally. They're always like twirling and
playing with the ideas in their head.
Yeah.
Have you got an inclination towards arts education, like teaching? It sounds like you do.
I've never really. I've done workshops with the book, which has always been lovely. Haven't done that many recently, but I think my passion is that so many people get kind of told not to be creative because and they lose that sort of the childlike passion of creativity that everyone has. You see little kids and they're just like drawing and they can't help themselves. And I just think over time it kind of gets beaten out of people. And it is super hard when
It does. I think part of it is, to interrupt you here, sorry, is like the older you get, the more you're afraid of getting things wrong. Mm-hmm. And then I think that beats the and that's society does that because you get punished for getting things wrong.
And you've I say you plural, like you feel like part of it is you're putting yourself out there in a really personal way because you're sharing what you think is good work because you've made it and you're like, I think this is good. I'm going to put it out to the world. And if the world's not saying, oh, this is good, then you take it personally. And it can be super hard. And I also think when I talk about that show, my first show in the picture box, I spent years working out the right space to have. And also I think when you invest, because that was where I had to hire the space, when you invest in a show, your outlay for the space and you're spending all this money on your artwork, the actual frames and as well as the time, that it can be really disheartening if you put too much money into something and you don't get that money back. Then that can be a huge feeling of rejection and disappointment. And if people aren't responding to the work the way that you want them to, then it's super hard. And I think sometimes people have this expectation, you're going to have a big show and everyone's going to come and you spend all this money on something. And if it doesn't turn out, then, how do you come back from that?
It's a kick in the guts, you're really putting yourself out there.
Absolutely.
When you do something like that, like putting on a show, even just for some people, it's really hard just to show their friends something that they've made, and you go from there, and it can get more and more difficult. To kind of like the personal stakes are higher, money. Yeah, but it's a lot of it is that kind of people are afraid of being judged for their efforts. Like, this is no good. Yeah, it's like almost worse than losing money and things like that. It's like, this is just, you've wasted your time. Yes, like your dream is just that. It's a dream. Yeah, you'll never, So it's scary to put yourself at risk for that.
It's super scary, but I also think too that the artists and especially writers who are prepared to share their work and to get critiqued are the ones that will grow as well. So if you're absolutely, this is all I want to do and I don't care what the world says and I'm just going to, put on my exhibitions, and if they sell or if they don't, whatever, then awesome to you. Like you've got that, that the skin to handle it. But if you're wanting to grow and to learn and to, have work that people will, that people want to purchase, then it is that kind of like that input of, especially I found with storytelling that I actually come from a screenwriting background for children.
You were hiding things from us.
So I decided, and this is sort of a bit funny, but I decided that I was going to be a screenwriter one day, as you do. And so I sat down and I wrote a screenplay over a weekend, and that screenplay was absolutely terrible. And what I did is I uploaded it so there's this thing where you can get your work critiqued by, it's Francis Ford Coppola, has like a screenwriting, like a network. He doesn't read the screenplays, but you can put your work out there and people will read it. And I tell the story that so this screenplay that I wrote over a weekend, I put it out there thinking this is going to be great, and anyone that's a screenwriter will be laughing right now going, this person is so delusional, because one of the critiques I got back was, is English your first language?
Sorry.
That's how brutal.
Oh, that is brutal. Oh, wow. How did that make you feel? Sorry for laughing.
No. I'm laughing too, because I just looked and went, do you know what? They're right. She's like, this is shit. This is just a piece of shit that I wrote over. Who am I kidding? Like, and if you know anything about screenwriting, it is such a craft, and it's not just making a film, it's making a story. And I'm one of those people that when I get bad feedback, it actually fires me up. I find that I get really embarrassed and I'm like, oh, I can do better. So then I rewrote it. And it took me 10 years, but that screenplay ended up winning. It was a top 10 finalist in a American screenwriting.
Wow.
Yes. So very proud of that story, and I'm hopeful that I can do something with it at some point, be it a graphic novel or there's like...
Jackie, that's wild. You just 10 years.
Just kept plugging away at it.
And when you said that, you're probably just flogging a dead horse. Maybe I'm not determined enough. Really?
Well, the kernel of the idea, I wanted to learn how to I wanted to learn how to be better at what I did. And it is fun. It was fun to make this story and create these characters, and it was painful, but I think I'm kind of like quietly just keep plugging away, and I'm always hopeful that I will do better and trying to improve on everything that I do creatively, and to see where it ends up. And I just keep trying. It's just what I just keep giving it a go.
That's impressive. But I mean, that goes back. We went off on this tangent talking about arts education. I mean, I think you've got your plate full, but you'd be a great art teacher.
Yeah.
Like, it sounds like you've got ideas. Is that something that maybe in the future, or when you don't want to kind of just be, at the behest of a gallery and all that?
Look, I'm always happy to share what I've learned, and I'm not precious. So if I've given the opportunity, I like to talk, and always try and encourage people. And I think, part of what I do as the writer illustrator is that we have like this thing called pen pal authors, where you get to write to a class 4 times a year. So I did it last year and I'm doing it this year. And so I like doing things like that sort of on the side. And who knows what will happen, but
because it's kind of like, you hear people say it all the time. Oh yeah, give it a go, try and all that. But you think yourself, oh, would you do it? Would you try? And sometimes they're not people that would try. They'll encourage you, which is the right thing to do. But it's different when it comes from someone who, like you, who'll just take the bad feedback and keep cracking at it for 10 years on the same project until it works. When that person tells you to keep trying, it holds more weight because you're not just talking the talk, you walk the walk as well.
Yeah, I guess so.
Very.
It's because it is nothing as well. Like, I can't really show. Like, I've got if you go to my website, you can click on the link and see that I'm in the top 10 finalists. You don't know whether you've come 4th or 10th. So I didn't win the top 3, but I'm in that top. But
that's know what. But
I know, and it's
like top 10.
exactly.
Doesn't matter if
Correct.
1 or 10.
And
you're
also
top 10.
With screenwriting too, it's I don't know if you've ever read a screenplay. If you've ever read a really bad one,
I struggle to sit through a movie these days, let alone reading a screenplay. Yeah,
they're a part of this critiquing is that you put your work out and then other people read it and critique it, and you read other people's work as well. And so I would recommend to anyone who is like into writing to read other people's work, because you learn so much. And reading a bad screenplay, it's literally painful. You get like a pain in the middle of your forehead. And you're just like, oh my God, this is just so, which mine was absolutely painful. And thank you to those people who read it and told me that it was bad, because you need that honest feedback so you can improve. And, it was something that I wanted it to be. You can write something and think it's amazing and you love it yourself, and that's fine. If you want to write something that you put out to the world, then you would hope that the world likes it. And so you just keep working on it until it gets good. But I also found with my children's book, the one that ended up getting published, so I joined I'm in a small writers group, and you can just tell when you put the work out there, all of a sudden this book was getting responses I'd never heard before with any of the other pieces. And people are nice. A lot of people are really nice when you show your friends and your family, oh, that's amazing, like that's great. but is it really? Like, they're just being kind to you.
I never believe friends, family. I don't believe any of them when they say something I've done is good. I do as soon as they say that in my head, I think, you're full of shit. You're such a liar. Why would you're supposed to love me? Why are you lying to me?
Oh. See, I think that's slightly different for what I'm talking about. But I think you just get a different response that you can only feel if you're putting out work and people are, and so I could tell with this book that ended up getting published that it was special from what else, the other things I had done, which when I did that pitch, they could see that older work wasn't right. And it's like, okay, it's not right. It's not, and I'm so happy that that's what the world gets to see, even though it was really brutal being, told, some pretty harsh things throughout my whole creative career. But you just, like I said, I'm lucky because it doesn't wound me. It just makes me want to work harder. And maybe that's like the greatest gift that I, but also, and it's about being in a space where you can handle having something brutal happening to you. And I think if you're feeling vulnerable, then don't put the work out yet, because you need to be able to go, okay, this could have a really bad, people could really not like it, and I don't think I'm strong enough. And I'm just saying that in your general life. If you're going through a period of within your own personal life and you just think, my skin's a bit thin at the moment, whatever's happened, I'm really tired because I haven't slept or I've been sick or something's happened. So it's about being kind to yourself as well and going, okay, with my first show, I didn't put that much money into it. If I didn't sell anything, it was going to be fine. But it was, if I'd put all this money into it and nothing sold, then that's just like I'm making myself worse off. So it's kind of like being kind to yourself, giving yourself little challenges where you put it out for a little bit, and if it's coming back brutal, then you're just like, okay, it's not working. I need to just, close the doors and work on it and then when I'm feeling a little bit, because it is, I've had, I get really upset when things don't work out and I have like a bad night where I'm just like really shitty, have a sleep on it, next day, then that's when I pull up. You're allowed to be sad because you've worked really hard on something and it didn't work out. And I give myself permission to be sad on that, on the day that it happens. But then by the next day I have to kind of just like...
You're back at work.
Work, which, maybe a couple of days, depends.
Well, Jackie, I think we can wrap it up there. Can you let everyone, actually people know your gallery again?
So I'm with the Rebecca Hossack Gallery, where her, which is London, Miami, and New York, and I'm with Boolarong Press for my published book, and the ATM Project, which is which I've all over Australia.
And they can get they can find out about more about the ATM Project through the Affordable Art Fair website.
And also I probably would say if you do want to sort of have more up-to-date stuff of what I'm doing, I'm on Instagram as Jackie Case Art, which is JACKAE CASE. Art. But I'm not the best. I should post more often.
We or some of us should post less. But, thank you, Jackie.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
It was a joy. Thank you.